Welcome, and today I have so much on my mind, and so many things I want to share, and so little time. I feel like I rushed my last video, and feel as if I said too much, and in some cases too little. Whenever I'm speaking about these dates, I just don't know. Sometimes I generalize, because it's uncertain whether things took place 200 years ago, whether Noah's flood was much more recent. But today I want to go back to 1756, and let's just suspend our ideas of this timeline and just have a look at what the narrative tells us occurred in this time period. But what is on my mind is the excellent Conspiracy Are Us video that I last watched, and he showed these incubators, or more specifically baby incubators, at the World's Fair. And this was an exhibit, and apparently they had these baby incubators all throughout this type of exhibit where you could see live babies, and very creepy and strange that this would be happening and that people would be paying to see this, and really seeming to be a puzzle piece to the repopulating post-reset. But before we jump into the narrative year of 1756, I wanted to touch on this other excellent video that I watched, and this is by a channel called Deciphering the Devil's Details, as you can see here, and I find it to be an excellent channel. I'll leave the link below. And first, as long as we're here, I'm going to show you this other video that he made, and it's this one here. And here what you can see is a building, an apartment building, and over here you can actually see, I believe, the same building. And he goes into this in great detail, and just at a glance here you can see that this is this building, if I'm correct, or one very similar to it, in St. John, New Brunswick. And just to give you an idea, I mean, if something is not torn down, it can easily be repurposed by removing all the antiquitech and filling in windows, as we can see here. And pretty soon you have a pretty dull looking apartment building, whereas it may have looked more like this in its glory. And in this particular video, he starts off with the lyrics to a Steely Dan song. The song is called The Royal Scam, and released in 1976, the year I was born. And here are the lyrics. They wandered in from the city of St. John without a dime, wearing coats that shined. So very interesting right there, right away. You're wandering in without a dime, but you have coats that shine. From their sunny island. And really I suggest that you watch his video. He does an excellent breakdown. And it seems that what this song depicts is what I have been suspecting for quite a while. A lot of comments suggesting this, and he presented a very compelling case in which I simply wanted to scratch the surface and share with you today. Now, here is Maria of Austria, 1528. Again, dates. Let us suspend the exactness of these dates and only take into consideration the story as it's told. Maria of Austria, daughter of Charles V, wife of Emperor Maximilian, and not only a photo or some kind of sketch or picture, but a coin. And here we have Joan, Archduchess of Austria, Princess of Burgundy and Flanders, second daughter of the Holy Roman Emperor, served as a regent of Spain for her brother King Philip II, and really fascinating. Again, minted on coin. And here we have Elizabeth of Bohemia, daughter of King James of Scotland, and briefly the Queen of Bohemia, on coin. And here again, some coinage with a date of 1601, and perhaps an I, but looking very similar to this one. Not sure. And here a young archer, a young soldier of the Holy Roman Empire during the 30-Year War. Very interesting. Painting, King Richard II of England. And here we see a view of the square with the King's Fountain in Lisbon, Portugal. Amazing architecture in the background, spiraled columns. And here is depicted the King of Portugal. And here is Saint Maurice in Magdeburg, Germany. And here is George Augustus Bridge Tower, born in Poland, a violinist who lived in England much of his life, and a Dutch boy in the 17th century. And here are some figures with what seems to be disfigured noses, and we've seen this all throughout our plane. Typically, when we see the defacing of statues, it's oftentimes the nose, an easy way to cover up the origin of these people in order to facilitate the rewriting of a narrative. And really fascinating when we consider the Native Americans and their true origin and seeming to be placed from one area to another, relocated, and slowly breeding the color out, and the entire history of these people. And very fascinating. And to finally be understanding this missing link. And what it seemed is everything was the opposite as what we've been told. And if I'm getting this correctly, and of course it will require a lot more research, but the black man inhabited the Americas, and again, if I'm not mistaken, the white man inhabited Africa. And what we see is a complete flip-flopping, the removal on one continent and the replacement of another. And there are several stories depicting this, even in one of my recent videos, showing as late as World War II, bringing orphans from England to Canada, and in all different parts of the world. And that brings me to this 1756 World War Zero, also called the 7-Year War. The 7-Year War was a global war fought between 1756 and 1763. It involved all 5 European great powers, plus many of the middle powers, and spanned 5 continents, affecting Europe, Americas, West Africa, India, and the Philippines. And this also included the Americas, and would have been what seems to be the same as the French and Indian War in 1754. So you have this massive world war, which just seems ridiculous in this time period with all the research we've been doing into these different subjects. The idea of these primitive people, but I have no doubt that something was going on. And it seems to me that this was the organizing of what would become the new narrative. And the war ended with the Treaty of Paris one of the many treaties of Paris. The war was successful for Great Britain, which gained the bulk of New France in North America. Spanish Florida, Caribbean islands, Senegal on the west coast of Africa, the Native American tribes were excluded from the settlement. A future conflict would occur known as the Pontiac War, which was a small-scale war between the indigenous tribes known as the Ottawas and the British, where the Ottawas claimed 7 of the 10 forts created or taken by the British. And really, this story is just an absolute mess. I encourage you to read it. Just a complete shuffling and redistribution of land and ultimately people. And unbelievable that this is the first time I've heard of this World War Zero. And I don't really believe this happened the way they're telling us. If anything, this is another crafty story created by the controllers post-reset. And lastly, I wanted to have a little look at the Moors, said to have inhabited a region around the Mediterranean, all around the Mediterranean, and a fascinating study. And let's just have a little look at some of the Moors and their architecture. And here a little image of the expulsion of the Moors from Spain. A fascinating city in the background. And some Moorish architecture in the castle of the Moors in Portugal and Moors in Scotland. And really, in short, the Moors inhabiting all parts of the world and being described to us as a mixed race of people. And when we look at their architecture, very Tartarian seeming and presenting itself as another junction in the rabbit hole. And here I just wanted to quickly show this post by Lee, and he has a new channel here, and his thumbnail just blew me away. This looks like something we would see in India, some kind of column, and in this case just looking like a piece of machinery, clear as could be, some kind of a transmission, and what was probably once metal has now petrified, has now turned to stone through time. And also Sylvie on the New Earth channel was showing something along these lines. Pieces of metal embedded in stone at a first glance, but seeming more and more obvious that the metal has simply turned to stone, and some metal has remained. Perhaps the quality was so great that it was not allowed to go through this process, returning the minerals to something that resembles stone. And many great examples. Here again, we can see what looks like a granite within the metals. And here as well, was this instrument pure metal, or was this portion originally wood with this metal band around it? Pretty fascinating discoveries and worth a quick share. But I think that's it for today. I do hope you enjoyed and have a blessed day. Please like, comment, and subscribe.